Picture yourself stepping into the gym without eating anything at all. No breakfast. No pre-workout drink. No snack on the way. Just you, your body, and a completely empty stomach. This video is for educational purposes only and does not replace medical advice. Training fasted is not appropriate for everyone. For most people, that thought creates instant pushback. It feels wrong. Dangerous. Even reckless. You've heard the message for as long as you can remember. You need fuel to train. Food creates energy. Without food, you'll be weak. That idea is so deeply rooted that challenging it feels unsettling. But here's the part most people never pause to question. The food you eat right before training is not actually powering that workout the way you believe it is. And once you understand why, the entire discussion around fasted training shifts. Most people mix up feeling energized with actually being fueled. When you eat before exercising, your body releases hormones in anticipation of calories. That response can make you feel alert, motivated, even powerful. But that feeling doesn't come from the food you just ate. The energy you're using during that session was stored in your body long before you walked into the gym. And that leads to a more important question. If the fuel is already there, what really happens when you train without eating? And why do some people feel clearer, leaner, and more in control when they do? To understand why training fasted doesn't automatically drain you, you first need to understand how your body actually creates energy. Your body stores energy in two main forms, and they function very differently. The first is glycogen. Glycogen is glucose stored in your liver and muscles, and it's the most accessible fuel your body has. It's quick, efficient, and easy to use. The average adult holds about 400 to 500 grams of glycogen, equal to roughly 1,600 to 2,000 calories of available energy. Depending on how active you are, that reserve can last anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. The second source is body fat, and this is where perspective changes. Even someone relatively lean carries tens of thousands of calories stored as fat. That's not emergency fuel. That's an enormous energy supply. And here's the part most people overlook. Your body always chooses the easiest fuel first. As long as glycogen is available, your metabolism keeps using it instead of fat. Not because fat is harmful, but because glycogen is convenient. When food is constantly coming in, your body never has a reason to get good at burning fat. Over time, that metabolic flexibility fades. That's when people start feeling like they must eat before every workout, even though the energy they need is already stored inside them. This is where the story most people were taught quietly breaks down. The food you eat before training does not go straight into your muscles and instantly turn into fuel. That's simply not how digestion works. After you eat, food can remain in your stomach for 2 to 5 hours before it's broken down enough to move into the small intestine. From there, nutrients are absorbed gradually over the next 4 to 12 hours. In other words, the calories from your pre-workout meal are not fueling that workout. They're being prepared for later use. So why do people feel better after eating? Because your brain expects energy. Hormones like insulin and dopamine shift in anticipation of incoming calories, creating both mental and physical readiness. It feels real, but it's not the same as usable fuel. The energy driving your workout comes from stored glycogen and body fat, not from the food you just ate. Once that difference becomes clear, a new question naturally follows. If you don't need fresh food for immediate energy, what actually changes when glycogen levels start to drop? After about 12 to 16 hours without eating, those glycogen reserves begin to decline. They don't vanish, but they're no longer plentiful. And when glycogen becomes limited, your body doesn't panic. It adjusts. It changes fuel sources. This is where fasted training shifts the equation. With less glucose available, your metabolism is pushed to rely on fat for energy. Fat cells release fatty acids into the bloodstream, and the liver converts part of that fat into ketones. These become an efficient alternative fuel for both muscles and the brain. This transition isn't extreme or unnatural. It's a normal biological response humans depended on long before food was always available. The ability to move easily between burning glucose and burning fat is called metabolic flexibility. A healthy metabolism isn't tied to a single fuel source. It adapts based on what's available. But when you eat often throughout the day, especially refined carbs, your body rarely has to practice that switch. Over time, fat burning becomes less efficient, not because something is wrong, but because it's rarely needed. Fasted training brings that demand back. It teaches your body to access stored energy calmly and efficiently. And once that switch begins working again, a chain reaction starts that most people never experience when they always train in a fed state. When your system is no longer flooded with incoming glucose, a very different internal environment forms. Insulin levels fall, and that shift is more important than most realize. Insulin is not a fat-burning hormone. It's a storage hormone. When insulin is high, fat stays locked inside fat cells. When insulin drops, that lock is released. Fat becomes available. During fasted exercise, no new glucose enters the bloodstream, so insulin remains low. That alone allows far more fat to be released and used as fuel. Research has shown that aerobic exercise done in a fasted state can increase fat oxidation by 20 to 30% compared to the same workout after eating. That isn't motivation. That's biology. At the same time, another powerful hormone rises sharply. Growth hormone. Growth hormone serves two key purposes. It signals fat cells to release stored energy, and it helps protect muscle from breakdown. Fasting on its own raises growth hormone. Exercise alone raises it as well. When combined, the effect is amplified. Some studies show growth hormone levels rising several times above baseline during fasted exercise. This is one reason people are often surprised that they don't lose muscle when training without food. Many even maintain or improve muscle tone while getting leaner. Your body is focused on survival. Muscle is valuable tissue. It allows movement, work, and the ability to find food. When energy is limited, your biology doesn't rush to break muscle down. Hormones shift to protect it while drawing fuel from fat. This isn't a trick. It's a built-in design. And when you recognize that these processes work together, fat loss stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like cooperation with your own physiology. As these hormonal shifts unfold, another important change happens quietly in the background. Your insulin sensitivity improves. Insulin sensitivity simply refers to how effectively your cells respond to insulin. When sensitivity is high, only a small amount of insulin is needed to move glucose into muscle, where it can be used or stored. When sensitivity is low, your body has to release increasing amounts of insulin to achieve the same effect. Over time, that pattern leads to energy crashes, fat gain, and metabolic problems. Fasted training disrupts that cycle. When you exercise without eating, insulin levels are already low. Your muscles still require fuel, so they become better at pulling glucose from the bloodstream with minimal insulin involvement. Your body learns to function more efficiently. And that improvement doesn't vanish when the workout ends. It can last for hours afterward, building over time. Mental clarity often improves as well, and this isn't imagination. During fasting, the liver converts fat into ketones. Ketones cross the blood-brain barrier and serve as a steady, efficient energy source for the brain. Many people notice they feel calmer, sharper, and more focused when training fasted. Fasting and exercise also raise levels of a protein called BDNF, which supports learning, memory, and brain resilience. Add in an increase in norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter tied to alertness, and the mental shift becomes easier to understand. Your brain is responding to a state it recognizes as purposeful and adaptive. There's an evolutionary reason this process works so smoothly. For most of human history, food was never guaranteed. Our ancestors didn't wake up, eat breakfast, and then decide whether they had enough energy to move. They woke up hungry and had to move first in order to eat later. Hunting, gathering, and traveling long distances all happened without food. If the human body became weak, foggy, or fragile when fasted, our species would not have survived. The opposite trait was favored. Those who became more alert, more focused, and more capable when food was scarce were the ones who lived long enough to pass on their genes. Your body still carries that programming. It doesn't view short-term fasting as a threat. It reads it as a signal to mobilize energy, sharpen focus, and protect what matters most. Fasted performance isn't a modern trick. It's an ancient design. Knowing that fasted exercise can work is only the first step. Understanding how to use it wisely is what makes it sustainable. Not all forms of movement demand the same type of fuel, and that difference matters when you haven't eaten. Low to moderate intensity aerobic exercise tends to work best in a fasted state. Brisk walking, light jogging, easy cycling, or steady swimming rely heavily on fat for energy. These activities can usually be maintained for long periods without feeling drained, even after many hours without food. This is where most people should begin. It allows adaptation without excessive stress and builds confidence instead of fear. High-intensity exercise is a different story. Sprinting, HIIT, maximal jump rope, or anything that leaves you gasping for air relies much more on glycogen. When glycogen is already partially depleted from fasting, performance can feel reduced at first. That doesn't mean it can't be done. It means adaptation takes time. Some research suggests that after several weeks of metabolic adjustment, people can sustain high-intensity performance even with reduced glycogen. But pushing into this too fast is where issues begin. Adaptation rewards patience. Resistance training sits in the middle. You can lift weights in a fasted state. And many people do. Growth hormone helps protect muscle during the workout. What matters most is what comes next. Muscle tissue needs protein to recover. Training fasted and then waiting too long to eat removes the building blocks your body needs to rebuild. And while fasted exercise can be effective, it isn't right for everyone. Context is critical. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, your nutritional needs are higher, and this isn't the time to experiment. If you have a history of disordered eating, fasted training can reinforce harmful patterns and should only be approached with professional support. People with type 1 diabetes, or anyone who uses insulin, need extra caution, because blood sugar control becomes far more complex without food. Chronic kidney disease, being significantly underweight, or taking medications that require meals are also clear cases where fasted exercise may cause more harm than benefit. Even in otherwise healthy individuals, your body provides feedback when something is wrong. Ongoing dizziness. Heart palpitations that don't settle with rest. Mental fog instead of clarity. Severe weakness or nausea are signs to stop. These aren't symbols of discipline. They're warnings. One simple guideline applies. If symptoms don't improve within 10 to 15 minutes of rest and hydration, end the workout and eat something light. Fasted training should feel controlled, not punishing. When everything is considered, one point stands out. Exercising in a fasted state isn't reckless, extreme, or limited to elite athletes or biohackers. It's a tool. And like any tool, it works best when used with knowledge and restraint. Your body was never meant to require constant food just to function. It was built to adapt, to shift fuel sources, and to protect what matters most when resources are limited. Fasted exercise simply gives your metabolism a reason to remember that ability. This doesn't mean everyone should train on an empty stomach. It means you now understand when it can help, when it can harm, and how to use it without sacrificing muscle, performance, or long-term health. The aim isn't suffering. The aim is control. Control over your energy, your metabolism, and the signals your body responds to each day. So here's the real question. Some coaches say you should never train without eating. Others claim fasted workouts are the only correct approach. Now that you've seen the full picture, where do you stand? Is fasted exercise overrated, underrated, or simply misunderstood? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this helped you understand your body in a new way, subscribe for more science-based insights into how it actually works.